Those of you who might be a little bit confused, millennials are anyone between the age 18 and 34. Okay. It's a surprisingly large age range, but you might also be surprised to hear how many there are here in St. Louis.
There are a few right here in the studio, by the way. Now, this studio, as well as the city of St. Louis, is actually among the top post-grad destinations for millennials on the move. We wanted to hear from you about why you think this is such a great place. So we turned to who?
We turned to one of our other millennials, my fellow millennial friend, Abby Llorico, who sat down with a group of them at the Cortex. So Abby, they had a lot to say.
Oh, absolutely. And as Rennie loves to remind us, right? I am a millennial, okay, as are you, Allie. But when I sat down with this group, I figured out that we had a lot of things in common. We're all driven by passion because we chose careers that will allow us to make a difference and pursue our interests. And we all really care about this city we call home, no matter how we got here. Is there anybody here who is from St. Louis?
I'm from St. Louis.
How do you see St. Louis now as compared to growing up here?
You know, it's been really encouraging for me to look at the Cortex district and, you know, looking at the entrepreneurship scene and the expression and the movement that we've seen within the space of innovation.
I was raised in the county, so it's kind of hard for me to say. And growing up, being told that the city is dangerous or old, and then moving here and living here and working here and realizing that there are these new institutions like the Cortex District. There is innovation happening here.
So I grew up in the Bay Area and came here for school. And there's a reason that I'm still here, which is very simply, I think that members, participants in the St. Louis community have almost an arbitrage opportunity, right? We get to get in at the proverbial ground floor and participate in the growth and construction of something that genuinely is exciting.
I think about all the empty storefronts, all the empty schnooks, spaces across the city. What would it look like to transform those spaces into something that can actually bolster economy? How can we innovate with the people who live there?
I think that last part, with the people that live there, is a huge one because I see a lot of innovation, I see a lot of growth happening in St. Louis, but it also becomes growth that is catered towards the upper class, or growth that is catered towards the educated. The people that can afford to go to this fancy, expensive restaurant that's now a destination point, but nothing around it or nothing beside it.
What are some of the things you think St. Louis needs to do to be more appealing to people of our generation?
There is something special here. But a lot of the people that I know who I met in school left because there's this sense that there's this historically internal grudge across different people, different demographics. This city is so segmented. I think that becomes a turnoff for a lot of millennials. And I think the power of us as millennials is that, especially those of us who are not from here, is that we don't have those types of assumptions.
Even just asking something as simple as what high school did you go to is an intrinsically racist thing to do. And I don't think that many St. Louisans understand that. Like, ask you where you went to high school, which is really asking you, how rich are you, which is really asking you what class you exist in and will exist in.
Right.
St. Louis is home though. I feel like I became my own person here, which makes me feel super connected.
What do you guys think that St. Louis has to offer for millennials, and what do millennials have to offer for St. Louis?
Millennials are, in a sense, a group of people that don't have a boundary.
I think we also bring new perspectives and energy to a lot of possibilities in the city, which I think is super promising.
There's been plenty of studies that have shown they don't just care about the money, they actually care about making an impact.
Yes.
And so what's so powerful about that is that if the companies understand how to attract millennials, they're going to make a massive impact in their company if they give them the space.
And then in the community.
And then, yeah, and that's what I was going to say, and then they can make it happen also in the community, which is why I believe St. Louis can be appealing for millennials to say this is a space, if we create the space and environment, this is a space where they can move forward and create the most good.
So, Rennie, if we haven't convinced you yet with that we pretty much have all the world's problems figured out, that's because we were only able to show part of the conversation.
Okay.
Of course, we covered all sorts of topics. I mean, we talked about race relations, economic development, and they had some really good ideas and recommendations for the city, and we have that whole panel conversation posted on KSDK.com.
All right, so there's proof that we like more than just avocado toast.
We do like that, though.
But we do like avocado toast.
I would like to get their take on that too, by the way.
Thanks,
I
Abby.
didn't ask about that one.
All right, thank you, Abby. 2 men accused of